Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 56, season 2 of the Anglo-Italian pod. We are live on Twitch and YouTube. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever else, hello nevertheless. I am Tomas as always, and I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Mr. Stretching. I see you're stretching.
Yeah, Rory. I feel like it's getting weird now. Starting every episode by just shouting my own name. It feels a bit weird. But I'm here, guys. How are we, Tommy? Listeners, how is everybody? How you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. And hello to all the new followers that we've got and subscribers that we've got on YouTube. Our video with comedian Daniele Tinti was a hit. We hit 1,000 views, Rory. How does it feel?
It's pretty crazy, right? It's pretty crazy. It's taken us a while to get to like 5,000 downloads, to get to 1,000 views on one video. I was like, damn. So well done to Tommy for booking Daniele. Well done for Daniele for being so bloody fascinating. And hopefully, YouTube will treat us well and we'll keep blowing up.
There are, just so you know, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There is constant talks on how to expand the podcast a little more. It's a little scary though, Rory. The more people follow us, the less bullshit we can say on the podcast. I feel like the more knowledgeable we need to be about our stuff, right?
I don't know. This is going to sound so salty now, but some of the biggest channels I know talk utter nonsense the entire time. So I think we'll be all right. So
you believe once you have a reputation established, you can just like spout all the shit you want. That's pretty exciting. Looking forward to that.
I think pundits like Jamie Redknapp, Michael Owen are living proof of that, really. That once your reputation's high enough, you can say what you like.
Good evening to the people that are following us live. Rudy R23, Steve Cole 1984, Chris Hamilton, and of course our good friends from the Hopeless Wanderer podcast. There is a lot to talk about today. We are going to review everything that happened across Serie A and the Premier League this very weekend, starting from a very controversial Derby d'Italia between Juventus and Inter. But first, I wanted to tell all of our listeners that finally, after years, I've gone back to playing football. It was this morning with my students, and I don't want to brag, but hat trick at the park. I don't know.
But Tommy, how was that first touch? We talked about it in the other episode. That first touch of the football. How did it go?
Honestly, I saw this. They just kicked the ball in the middle of the park. The ball went up, and I saw it, and I was like, "Okay, Tommaso, this is your moment. You're establishing your reputation in front of your students. Don't miss it up." I don't even know how. Man, perfect first touch. Like I caressed it to the ground, and then I put a ball in, and my students were like, "Prof, not bad." And I was like, "Yeah, just."
We need to clear up how old your students are because they're 10 years old, right?
No. These guys are 16 and 17. I ended up with a hat trick. I was very happy, but then it took me a long time to recover from the physical effort. I was sitting on the bench.
You'll feel it tomorrow, man. You'll feel it tomorrow when you wake up.
I was sitting on the bench at the park right after trying to catch my breath, and I did catch one of my students taking a video of me, like zooming in, and I was like, "Dude, put the phone away. Come on, man. I still scored a hat trick. Don't make fun of me." But Rory, how was your weekend? How is everything going?
It's a good weekend. It's a really good weekend. The weekend went quite well for Arsenal, considering we've not played yet. And then yesterday we met up for Derby d'Italia, which was incredible, but it made today a lot more of a struggle than it would have been. Definitely worth it, of course. Definitely worth it. But yeah, good weekend. I'm now just hoping that Arsenal can top off a crappy Monday with just a nice little send-off. I really am. I'm realizing how nervous I'm going to be before every single Arsenal game this season. Like left now, just so nervous.
According to our followers on Instagram, it should be a pretty comfortable win for Arsenal tonight. People seem ready to click on Arsenal against Crystal Palace, but only time will tell.
Fingers crossed. I really hope so.
Before we start, since the last time we talked, guys, we've got the World Cup groups all ready to go. So we're going to take a little look at the World Cup groups. Spoiler alert, Italy still are not part of the World Cup. But let's start from Group A: Ecuador, Netherlands, Qatar, and Senegal. I did overhear a conversation you were having with your mate last night. You believe some scandal is going to happen in this group?
I just get the feeling that we might get a South Korea run from Qatar. And I feel like in the past, we've seen some African teams be the victim of terrible refereeing. So my prediction for the next World Cup is that Senegal suffer a horrific VAR decision that somehow means that Qatar go through the group. I can just sense it. I think it's going to happen. I think this is, but we were talking about Senegal and how they might be one of the best African teams to ever come into a World Cup. I think that is a really fascinating group. Ecuador are crazy strong. Qatar aren't going to be as bad as everybody expects them to be. So I think that's a really, really, really interesting group. But I do feel like Senegal are going to get shafted.
And we were hanging out with a bunch of South Americans last night, and they did tell us don't count Ecuador out. They're a very good team. They're very young. This is going to be the opportunity for many of their youngsters to try and make a name for themselves. In Group B, here, we've got England, Iran, the United States of America.
I'm so gutted none of our American listeners are currently logged into the chat. I'm so gutted.
And the one between Wales, Scotland, and Ukraine. Of course, the headlines are for England and the United States being in the same group. They were also in the 2010 World Cup, and their only game against ended in a 1-1 draw. Rory, how does it feel to be in the same group as the United States of America?
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Honestly, I think obviously this is a better US team than the 2010 team, but this is a better England team than the 2010 team. I still remember the American headlines of USA wins 1-1 on the New York Post, I think it was.
Wow.
Yeah. Rob Green making the mistake. He did a great tweet at the time because he had a mistake in that game. He just retweeted it with like sideways eyes, which was pretty funny. I think England could absolutely slap them. I'm just going to say it. I think England could absolutely slap them. I'm like really, really excited about this. I'm really excited about it. I think Iran could be a tougher game because I think Iran were such an unknown entity, really hard to break down. I feel like the US, I feel like we can, really, really take them to task.
Of course, it's time to pull out one of the greatest commercials ever made in the history of mankind. I did send it in the group chat. I will post it on Instagram again. It's an American commercial that was played right after the national anthems at the 2010 World Cup. It's a Dodge Challenger commercial with George Washington driving it against the British Army. And it got my American friends very pumped back in the day. I think they're definitely, if we know one thing with the Super Bowl, Americans do love poignant commercials, like at the right time, in the right moment. And I do believe Americans are already going crazy for the halftime of this game.
Yeah, I always forget how much they do actually remember that we used to own them. And they are a little bit, still a little bit bitter about it, like still properly bitter about it. I kind of get it. I don't know, but I always feel like with America, they're such a, like the richest country in the world now. Like, are you still that bothered about it? I don't know. Like,
and let's call it the United States, not America.
Sorry, the United States continent. Of America. Yeah.
Group C, Argentina, Mexico, Poland, and Saudi Arabia. Lewandowski and Lionel Messi in the same group. I think there could be some exciting fixtures and kind of hard to predict who is going to be top of this group, considering that Mexico are also a pretty strong team going into this
they're
World
definitely
Cup.
like, they're not as good as they have been in the past, but I feel like Argentina and Mexico is going to be a full-on battle. Like, there's going to be so many two-footed challenges flying in there. I think Saudi Arabia could be the whipping boys in this group because that Argentina, Mexico, and Poland, as you said, three very good teams. Saudi Arabia, they always make it to the World Cup, but they never make any mark on it. And I think maybe they'll be hoping they can, but in that group, I think they're going to struggle.
We've got Group D, Denmark, France, Tunisia, and one between the United Arab Emirates, Australia, and Peru. Mbappe and Eriksen in the same group. Kjaer is also going to be ready for the World Cup come next season. What do you think of this one, Group D?
I think it's an interesting group again. I think if the chances are it's going to be Peru, right? You would expect it to be Peru that make it through. It's not a good Australia team. I don't know anything about the United Arab Emirates team, I'll be honest, but you'd expect Peru to get through. I think that's, apart from France, that's maybe three fairly equal teams. Denmark are very good, but I feel like they're not head and shoulders above a Peru and Tunisia. So that second spot is massively up for grabs. I think France will win every game, but that second spot will be really interesting to see who gets it. Denmark will feel slightly more confident than the others, I suppose.
France did struggle against Peru. They were in the same group in the
Mm.
latest World Cup. We shall see. Group E, one between Costa Rica and New Zealand, and then Germany, Japan, and Spain. As we posted on Instagram, thanks to our friends from the Hopeless Wanderer podcast who sent us the meme, never ask a woman her age, a man his salary, and Group E what they were doing between 1930 and 1945. Italy are missing out on this group, the good old World War II alliance. Germany, Japan, and Spain. I think this one is going to be an interesting one. And one between Costa Rica and New Zealand. I'm excited about this group.
Yeah, I think if Costa Rica get through again, I would expect Costa Rica to get past a not very strong New Zealand. Again, there's 3 teams there, and Costa Rica, the last World Cup, or was it the World Cup before, they got really far. Like their record in World Cups is actually pretty good. So I think
it was the World Cup when they won against Italy, man.
Oh yeah,
It was in 2014, yeah, the one before the last one.
Yeah. But I think here again, you've got obviously Spain and Germany are going to be looking at those top 2 spots, but Japan are also a team that are definitely able to upset people. They're going to be incredibly hard to beat. Like I always get excited watching Japan. I feel like it's one of the like really exotic teams. I know nothing about their players, but every time I watch them at a World Cup, I'm like, these guys are really, really good. So I think there's 3 very even, 2 very even, and Japan. And then if Costa Rica are thrown in, it could be a really, I think it's one of the most fascinating groups that we've got.
Yeah, never forget in 2018, Japan went quite far. And if it wasn't for the harakiri that they committed against Belgium, who knows how far they would have gone. That was kind of crazy, right? They were up 2-0.
Oh, I felt so sorry for him. I felt so sorry for him.
They ended up losing 3-2. Group F, Belgium. They lost against Belgium. Canada, Croatia, and Morocco.
Ooh.
A little picture posted on Instagram made me have a very bitter smile. Perisic posted a picture with him, Lukaku, and Hakimi celebrating for a goal, saying "See you all in Qatar." And I was just like, I so wish they were all still at Inter Milan. Good old days.
Good days.
Are Canada going to upset this group, you think?
I'm going to stick with my Canada are going to get through this group. I'm going to stick with it. I think this is the closest group. They are 4 teams that are pretty much equal, I think. And we've seen it, Canada, you can say what you want about the CONMEBOL qualification, but for them to get through so comfortably ahead of America and Mexico, the USA and America and Mexico, damn it, means that they are a very good team. Morocco, even though they don't have Ziyech, we've seen it at the AFCON, they did pretty well. They've still got players like Hakimi. They've got a good, solid squad. Buffal always turns up for them. Croatia, obviously finalists in the last World Cup, and then Belgium, the perpetual kind of disappointment, but you would again expect them to get through the group. I think this is one of the most, like, do you know the Champions League group this year where we were like, no one's going to care about it, but it's the best group, the one with like Salzburg, and
Lille, I think. Lille,
yeah, Wolfsburg, but it was like crazy until the last moment. That's this group in the World Cup.
True. This one is really unpredictable. Every game, I think, is going to keep us on our toes, on the edge of our seats. Brazil faced Cameroon. They were in the same World Cup group in 1994. And despite me being 1 year and a half, I did remember this thing. I was like, I've seen somewhere before Brazil-Cameroon highlights. And then Serbia and Switzerland. Another kind of unpredictable group. Switzerland made life very hard for Brazil in the World Cup in 2018. Yeah. And Rory last night, it was quite funny. At a point, Vlahovic was being filmed on the pitch against Inter, and Rory goes, "Oh shit, Vlahovic is going to be at the World Cup." Yes, indeed, he is.
Yeah, it's weird. I kind of forgot that he represents a country, and I was like, "Oh crap, Serbia have got Vlahovic and they've got Mitrovic." I think that's like genuinely one of the better striking partnerships, striking forces in this tournament.
Mitrovic, they've got Milinkovic-Savic as well, and Tadic, I want to say.
Like, their team is Serbia, you cannot sleep on them at all. Cameroon, we've seen, did really well in the AFCON. Brazil, we've talked about them, possibly the favourites for the tournament. And Switzerland, still, as I said after the England game, one of the most underrated national teams in the world. I think there are so many interesting groups in this tournament. Like, really, again, you would expect Brazil and then any of the other 3 could go through.
And luckily, Italy didn't qualify because I wouldn't have seen them. I wouldn't have been comfortable going into this World Cup in a group with Ghana, South Korea, and Uruguay, and that says a lot
That does say
about
a lot.
about the state of our national team. Portugal, of course, are in the group alongside Ghana, South Korea, and Uruguay. It should be quite comfortable for Portugal. Who's going to be the second team to qualify from this group, Rory?
Well, mate, the headline from this group is we get Ghana versus Suarez rematch.
Ooh,
He
baby.
is going to be back on the pitch. The Ghanaians have not forgotten about this. I think the only problem for Ghana is, and we've talked about it, this is not a vintage Ghana team. They have scraped through qualification. They arguably did not deserve it, definitely didn't deserve it. I think this is not a good Ghana team. It could be a bad tournament for them. But if they beat Uruguay, they won't give a shit. As long as they beat Luis Suarez, I think that's all they want. But I think within this group, yeah, you're going to say Portugal and Uruguay will have the shithousery to get through the group. They've got that now, so I think.
I think honestly, the two most interesting groups are Group F and Group G: Belgium, Canada, Croatia, Morocco, and then Brazil, Cameroon, Serbia, and Switzerland. Very difficult to predict who is gonna go through. Before we start with Italy and the Premier League, finally they've all scored in the same game. Kylian Mbappe, Neymar, name and last name, and Lionel Messi. 2 goals by Mbappe and the 3 assists. Of course, they were playing against Lorient, bottom of the table. But holy shit, did you see those goals, Rory?
I have, and they were absolute beauty. Sometimes these things just take a while to click. Quick credit. Lorient on bottom. They are battling against relegation.
Yeah,
So they're
bottom, I
right
meant,
down there.
deep
They're
down.
right
Yeah,
down
yeah,
there.
yeah.
But sometimes these things take a while to click, and maybe it's clicking. But also it was Lorient.
Yeah, they would have loved. I think PSG fans would have loved to see it against Real Madrid in the Champions League, maybe. But no,
Quite
they
possibly.
had to wait until they played the Lorient at home after losing 3-0 to AS Monaco. But yeah, as Rory said, sometimes these things do need the time to click. But it's finally time to review Serie A and the Premier League. And where could we start from, if not from the hottest of headlines? Finally, Inter Milan, as Chaboy had predicted, win 1-0 away at Torino in a game of football that did not
was
look
it
like
technically?
Yeah,
Technically, it was a
technically it
game of
was a game
football.
of football, but actually it was just a lot of diving, a lot of just like bad tackles. And I think that the fact that Lautaro Martinez almost broke Locatelli's face after 90 minutes of play says a lot about how the rest of the game unfolded. Finally, it's a double taken penalty from Çalhanoğlu that seals the win from Inter Milan. If we look at the table, it's a clutch win, not only for the position of Inter Milan on the table, because at this point, Juventus didn't overtake them, but also I think it's something massive for the morale. What did you think about the game itself, Rory? We were together, but we haven't really discussed it since.
The first half was terrible. The first half wasn't a game of football. It was I think there was a moment towards the end of the half where there'd been a passage of play for like 30 seconds, and we were like, oh, I think this is the longest that football has been played. I think this is the longest that I've seen people passing it around, because the whole game was just cynical foul, diving, just wasting time, constantly wasting time. I thought it was genuinely like a really bad advert for Serie A. Like, it's the biggest game, and
Terrible advert.
it was just awful. But then all the drama at the end of the first half, and you're like, oh, that's why we watch football, right? A penalty is given, rightly so, right? After VAR consultancy for a long time. The penalty was given. Awful penalty from Çalhanoğlu. Awful penalty.
Yeah.
But then he gets away with it because he's then cleared out from behind him, another foul, and the fact that the Juventus players had infringed on the area anyway, like they were in the box. They were basically level with him by the time he kicked the ball.
For once, I understood something about VAR, ladies and gentlemen. 2 seasons into a football podcast, I have understood something. So, Çalhanoğlu takes the penalty, the goalkeeper saves it, and then Çalhanoğlu fouls the defender before the ball goes in. But it goes to VAR because they aren't sure. And they do confirm that Çalhanoğlu committed a foul. However, you need to check if before then there was some other infraction, and you can see
Okay.
the leaked clearly entering the box.
Yeah.
So it's just like we cannot give the foul because before that there was another infraction, so you need to retake the penalty. And can I say one thing? That ball must have been so heavy for Çalhanoğlu after missing the penalty.
And it was a
And
great penalty. The second penalty was great.
wow, what a great penalty it was. And I did notice one thing. While VAR was assessing whether it was a penalty the first time, whether it was a penalty or not, you see players talking to each other, like a lot of animosity between Inter and Juventus players. And at a point in the middle of all this scruff, the banter expert, Giorgio Chiellini, kind of like peeks over, looks at Çalhanoğlu, and he's like, "Hey, Akan, you're going to take it, right?" And he just smiles and nods his head. And he did get into the guy's head, who then missed the penalty. So you can be sure that Chiellini always knows how to get in his opponent's head.
He is the most experienced of shithouses, the most experienced. But I do love Chiellini. I think it was like when you look back at that passage of play now, or that kind of just drama, all the decisions were correct. So you have to go, okay, fair play. They got it right. It was just very messy. I was very relieved that the second half was actually a bit more of a game of football, though. I felt like both teams, I said it at half time when we were watching it. I was like, the second half can't be as bad as that, because one of these teams is going to have to try and win it. And Juve had to come out then and had to try and win the game, not just the classic Allegri fucking waste time cynical. They had to go out and try and win it. And I think it did mean it was a much better game. I feel like the players that really impressed me for Inter was one, really. Barella was unbelievable. He was just all over that midfield.
Brozovic too.
Yeah, he was winning everything. His refusal to stop running when that ball is just getting away from him. He just keeps going, gets the ball back, gets the pass off. I thought, yeah, him and Brozovic were unbelievable. I think Inter defended very, very well. They were quite lucky at times. Like, I think Juve hit the crossbar and the post, and there was a clearance off the line, right?
At the very beginning, Andanovic, and then like Andanovic at the very beginning did one of the worst things he's ever done in an Inter shirt. And we know it's a long, long list, but it doesn't block the ball on a semi-easy cross. The ball just goes up and then it bounces down, and then Andanovic just like dives with his back. Like, I've seen frames of that, and I was just like, damn it, I hope nobody had noticed. But of course, the internet was very quick to be like,
the internet notices everything. Like, nothing gets lost.
That was awful. Then there was a great post hit by Zaccaria in the second half, who just like ran the entire like half a field and then hit the post. So we got lucky there. I think we were the worst of the two teams. I think that Juventus definitely had more intent, and I'm just gonna retrieve what a hopeless wanderer said. Enjoyed the game. Juve full of intent but lacked quality. Vlahovic had a poor first touch, but Inter were resolute with their defending, which won them the game. Andanovic ... I think this is actually a perfect analysis. It wasn't a pretty game of football, and I feel like Inzaghi knew that we were going into this game. Everybody had just come back from the national team duty. We were playing at Juventus. The nerves were going to be there. Juventus really wanted this game badly, so we couldn't go there to propose our style of football, which, by the way, has been lost ever since we lost that derby against AC Milan. In the end, we win thanks to an episode, that penalty. There is a lot of controversy about a second penalty that should have been awarded for Juventus this time. Upon rewatching the images, it looks like it's exactly on the line of the penalty box, and so
this was the push, right? My first instinct was that he was outside the area, but it was close. It was close.
Now they caught the final frame when the contact is first made, and it is indeed on the line. But am I gonna feel guilty about this against Juventus? No, I'm not. I'm just I'm just glad we walk away with the 3 points. But now I have a condition. It's just like, I always have these like school analogies. It's just like that good student of yours that tells you like, I don't have a lot of time to study. I will try to do my best and everything. They get the minimum of the good grades, and you're just like, all right, man, you got it. You take it home. But now I expect much more from you, because if we want to win this title, which is still a very difficult mission to accomplish, I want to see the football that we were playing at the middle of the season again. All the football that we were playing before that loss against AC Milan in Derby. We didn't see it last night. Right now, I expect much more from this team. And even if we're not going to win the title, I want to finish the league. I want to finish the season with a good, convincing push and just like win against the opponents that we're supposed to beat and all that. So no more excuses. Let's play the pretty football that we've shown before in the season, because if we play every game like last night, it's going to be tough.
No, but I think last night also was just about winning. Last night was just about getting the 3 points. This was like we've kind of talked about it, the last massive game for Inter this season. The last one that's like against a kind of top of the table rival. Like you've got over that hill, you got the 3 points. Now you can just kind of push on and try and keep that title race alive. But an interesting comment, I think, from Rudy here, Rudy R23, who says, I don't think Juve are out of the title race, though. What do you think, Tommy?
Ooh, let me pull up the table. So we've got AC Milan, who are playing tonight against Bologna. Let's say they win. They're at 69, Napoli 66, Inter 63 with a game in hand, and Juventus at 59. Look, I think that if Inter win that game in hand, I think, Rory...
That's my dog, sorry.
Don't kick your dog. Don't
she wants
be
to get involved.
Zuma.
Not now.
Don't be Zuma about your dog. Man, if Inter win that game in hand, I do think Juventus are once and for all out of the title race.
Yeah,
I know.
I think it would take a huge collapse from 3 teams for that to still be a even Juventus. I don't think can kind of get past that. I don't think.
Yeah. Another thing that I have to say, and I read a lot of posts on Instagram about it. It's just all the diving that started happening at the end of the second half. There was
some of it is absolutely embarrassing. Well, all of it's embarrassing.
Yeah, but there was one scene of D'Ambrosio, just like the ref blows the whistle for something, and D'Ambrosio just opens his arms and he goes, "What?" And as he does that, Vlahovic is right behind him and he gets caressed in the face. As he hits him, D'Ambrosio turns around to apologize and Vlahovic just falls down and proceeds to hold his face for like 30 seconds. Then the league did the same thing. Now, I'm not saying that this is only Juventus players. I'm just saying that it was very bad publicity for Serie A in general, and that players, I know we've said it over and over again, should man up a little bit, because some of these things were very woeful, like a bad publicity for the sport of soccer in general, for football in general. So
yeah.
Hopefully
it's one of the things that, like, when I have to talk to people who like rugby and they're like, call it Wendy ball, and they have a go about like football players hitting the deck, and I try and defend it. I'm like, no, but they're not actually hurt. It's like gamesmanship, blah, blah. And then you see that and you're like, no, it's impossible to defend. It's impossible to defend. You're just like, yeah, it's disgusting. It's sickening. But I think maybe one of the last things we're going to talk about here, but the Juve players, I'm trying to find the comment now from, of course, Hopeless Wanderer, talking about how Juve fans think that a certain Martinez should have been sent off. I think first half he was pretty lucky to still be on the pitch.
Yeah, I think that honestly, it's one of those times that I understood. One of the few times that I've understood Inzaghi's substitution, that he took him off at the 60th. That guy was risking a lot. He was risking a lot, and with 10 men, it was already difficult to keep a hold of the result the way we were, and with 10 men, it would have been almost impossible. So, yeah, Lautaro Martinez, man, I think that our style of play is not suiting him at the moment. The player is there, though. We see it whenever he goes playing international football for Argentina, but he hasn't been good for Inter since December. If we take away that performance against Salernitana, he hadn't scored in a long, long time. Since December, he's been struggling, and the whole team needs to be doing more to create a more fluid type of football, more aggressive, and just give him more playable balls, because it's really a shame to see him underperform the way he's being. I don't think that was a red card. I just think it was an unfortunate foul, and I really appreciated the fact that he stayed alongside.
But I think there was another foul later on in the half where he could have got a second yellow. I think where he cut, I was like, he's pushing it now. He is pushing it. But hey, it's, for Juve to not get a refereeing decision, we'll take that, because they get enough of them.
100%. Of course, tonight in 14 minutes, AC Milan kick off against Bologna. Also tonight, the game has just ended. Hellas Verona 1, Genoa 0, goal by Simeone. This is one thing that I can't stand about fantasy football. I'm winning the game currently, but my opponent has a Simeone and then a Giroud, and I know that I've celebrated for nothing because Simeone just scored, and I feel like Giroud is going to do the same exact thing. But what does this mean? This means that Genoa, Cagliari, Salernitana, and Venezia all lose, and the gap gets bigger. Now, Spezia are on 32 points, Sampdoria are at 29, but I still think it's going to be between those four teams: Cagliari, Venezia, Genoa, and Salernitana. Going back to the top, Napoli win and do so very convincingly at Atalanta. They do it with a 3-1 win. Penalty for Insigne, goal by Politano, beautiful volley on a beautiful Insigne pass in the first half. Then Deron for Atalanta makes it 1-2 with a beautiful header, and then Elmas kind of puts the ribbon on top of the package at the 81st minute. And Rory, I know you've got a hot take about Napoli and their style of playing.
I think we were discussing it last night again. I think Napoli have been playing the best football in Serie A this year. Now, guys on the chat, I'd be interested to hear what you think. But I think they are the team that, when they are in full flow, I enjoy it the most. I think the Spalletti is weird because when he was at Inter, I found it incredibly dull. I found the football just really dull. Really, like, remember when we had Uncle Shams on all those years ago with the cross and inshallah? It just felt like that's all they did. But with Napoli, it feels like it's a much more aggressive, dynamic, fast. They play some beautiful football. They've got some exciting players. I think they're the team that I've enjoyed watching the most this year, and I think they are playing the best football. We've said about Milan, they've been scraping 1-0 wins. Inter have been less than convincing.
Yeah.
Juve, most of the season, not been that great, but since Vlahovic and Zakaria have turned up, it's getting a bit better, but they definitely don't play great football. Like, you can go through all the teams. The only other team I'd say that maybe pushes them is Sassuolo, who play beautiful football. But I think Napoli are my, they've played the nicest football this year. What do you think, Tommy?
I agree with you. I did not watch the game. I just watched the highlights, but it feels like they're the team that when they turn up, they know how to play good flowing football, good passing. Lobotka has been on a tear. And this makes me think, if we need somebody to sub Brozovic, why don't we go for Lobotka?
Mate, you could do a lot worse than him. And he's someone like, I had him in fantasy football last year because guess what? I bought him on Football Manager and knew he was pretty decent. So I got him in fantasy football. He did sod all. And now this year he's been like a linchpin in their midfield alongside Zambo Anguissa. And it's great to see him doing so well. Like, what a player he is. His ability, again, to just win the ball, turn it around, get those passes going, get the moves going. He's been absolutely instrumental in everything they've done. And I think he's a player that Napoli fans had basically just thought, well, his career here is done. Like, he'll be sold in a year. And then he's just come in and just been unbelievable. It's great to see. And again, a lot of props has to go to Spalletti for doing that, right? For a player that looked like he was done, you've brought him in and he's become a key player.
Look, I think Napoli are honestly in the best position they can be because we know that Napoli cannot keep the lead off the table. Right now, they're chasing AC Milan. I want to say they will be chasing after this match day too, but they'd rather be chasing than being chased. So that's perfect for them. We said that they are going to have a very difficult run. This was the first of 3 games. They win it. The next is going to be against the Fiorentina and the next one against Roma. However, they are both going to be in their home turf. So I think that Napoli here, really, if they make 9 points out of this 3-game stretch, I think they are up there with the possibility of winning the title. By the way, exciting times. I don't know how long it's been since the 3 teams were all competing so evenly for the Scudetto, and it's just beautiful. After so many years of Juventus monopoly, right now it feels like the equilibrium is back a little bit.
And for them to not be in that 3-pack as well is like just an extra little spice of like, not only have we got more teams competing for it, but they're not in it. They're on the fringes of it. They're not in it. I just think it makes it even better. I think, look, we've talked before about how Serie A is having a bit of a resurgency, I think, and it's just so much more interesting now. Much more interesting now.
Hopeless Wanderer says, I like Napoli, but they can be prone to mistakes, which is why I think they struggle to cement top spot. However, friend of the show, Adam, you're forgetting that everybody is making a lot of mistakes up top. Inter Milan, AC Milan. I don't think they're any worse than the two teams from Milan. So I think honestly they have a shout. And one other observation from the Hopeless Wanderer, and maybe to debate, why are Italian teams so poor at corners? It's kind of out of the left field. Feel like I need time to prepare to answer this question, but it's
Is there
a
a
nice
thing,
one.
Tommy? Because in the Premier League now, a lot of teams have got like set piece coaches. So Arsenal have brought in a set piece coach, and touch wood, we're yet to concede a corner this season. Touch wood, touch wood, touch wood, right? And this set piece coach has really like revolutionized our corners and our free kicks and stuff, and every team's doing it. Is this a thing in Serie A yet? Have you heard about teams bringing in these coaches?
I haven't really heard about it, but I'm all about it, honestly. I remember there was a time when Mancini was at his first stint at Inter Milan. Inter were just ruthless from set pieces, like corner kicks, because we had Materazzi, Vieira. We just had a ton of Cordoba. We just had a ton of like tall people, or people who could jump, and we would capitalize quite a lot on corner kicks. And I honestly, one thing that I kind of have noticed it too, now that I think about it. But yes, to me, a corner kick you should have 1 out of 4 possibilities of scoring. Like if you make your team so deadly from corner kicks, then yeah, I know Liverpool also have a throw-in coach, says Chris Hamilton, which honestly, man, I'm all about these very specific
Well,
things.
you should see the stat. Like, so there's another Arsenal podcast. And although we're not an Arsenal podcast, there's an Arsenal podcast. Although we do sound like it sometimes. There's an Arsenal podcast with comedian Alan Davies called The Tuesday Club, and he talks about Arteta's crew as the pit crew, and he just talks about them as if it's like an F1 team, because there's literally like 50 people behind him, and they're all sat in the stadium with their iPads. And so it's like, what are all these people doing? It does feel like, and Liverpool were definitely there as well, but it's what Klopp talks about with like marginal gains, and like any tiny advantage you can get, then you need to be researching, you need to be finding, getting the data. I think we're seeing it more and more. It's like almost an Americanization of sport. Like, you know how like within the NFL there are coaches for absolutely everything. I feel like we're seeing that more and more in football now, and the data-driven like direction that we're going in.
Oh, I think it makes sense. It's all part of the game, and I don't see why it should be overlooked. And again, if you can score 1 out of 5 or 4 corners, that just becomes a strength for your team, and you've got 1 possibility more to score.
Exactly. And Chris has just commented, he's admitted it at last. It's an Arsenal podcast. Yes, finally you got out of me. What gives it away with all the things around me?
Chris, I'll just pretend not to have read your comment that said, and I wanted Juve to win.
Yeah, we kind of skipped over that.
No, I'm not going to comment on that. Chris, come on, man. You got to do better than that. Very quickly, because we got to jump to the Premier League as well. In Serie A, Roma win against the Sampdoria, and they are now officially the most informed team in Serie A.
Yeah,
man, I'm telling you, the last time they lost a Serie A game was against Juventus on January 9th. They lost that game 4-3. Ever since, no defeats in Serie A, and only 1 defeat across all competitions against Inter Milan in the Coppa Italia quarterfinals. So things are starting to look pretty for Roma. However, I have to say that Abraham, as incredible as a player as he is, there is always at least 1 or 2 chances in which he could have and should have done much better. He
should have so many.
But go take a look at the goal that Roma scored. It's beautiful football, 8 touches, box-to-box football, very good team play. Mkhitaryan is the goal scorer in the end. And Juventus, Roma bagged these 3 points. They are currently in Europa League territory, only 5 points away from Juve and 2 points ahead of Lazio, that win over the weekend 2-1 quite comfortably against Sassuolo. Consigli for Sassuolo had a few very good saves. It was a pretty good game overall. Below, we've got Atalanta that lost against Napoli, as we've just discussed. Fiorentina, they win quite controversially the Tuscan derby against Empoli. Empoli were protesting for a foul that shouldn't have been given.
Yeah.
I do believe there was the foul, though. I want to say I do believe
Yeah, I
that
think there
the.
was a foul there.
But I do get how it gets frustrating how some plays are reviewed on VAR and some aren't. So I guess that the frustration also comes
Yeah.
from that. Hellas Verona have just won, as I said, 1-0 against Genoa. Torino win 1-0 thanks to a Belotti penalty against the Salernitana. And Udinese, my oh my, they go down 1-0 against the Cagliari and then they end up winning 5-1. I am going to post the goal on our Instagram stories.
Who is it who
Nahuel,
scores it?
Nahuel Molina, the
Yeah.
Argentinian. Oh my God, what an incredible goal. Chips the goalkeeper from a tre quarti. I never from the three quarters of the pitch. I
Mhm.
never know how to say that in English. But that was a beautiful goal. And Beto gets a hat trick. Now, this guy has got 0 appearances in the Portuguese national team. And honestly, if I were the manager of Portugal, I wouldn't mind taking this 24-year-old to the World
Mhm.
Cup. You know that he's a physical big dude. You just throw him in when you need a goal. And I think that this guy is going to deliver. He's on 11 goals this season in Serie A.
He's had a great season. I feel like Udinese were kind of looking like they'd maybe be dragged into the relegation battle, and they've just turned it around. Their form recently is not being consistent, but they've definitely 2 wins, 2 draws, and a loss in their last 5. I think they've kind of it's what they always seem to do. They look like they might get involved, and then they just stay up, and they are capable of battering teams. Like Udinese on their day play some really nice stuff.
And Molina this year, for right back that he scored 6 goals and 1 assist. So good stuff from the Argentinian. And then finally, we're almost done. Bologna take on AC Milan tonight. You will know the score if you're listening on Spotify tomorrow. Spezia win 1-0 at the very death of time against Venezia to escape relegation. Very important win for the Liguri. Sampdoria lose 1-0 against Roma, and then bottom of the table, it's still Cagliari, Venezia, Genoa, and Salernitana. We are all done in Serie A. Forza Bologna, of course. Rory, off to you in the Premier League.
Premier League, and all the headlines are coming out of London. Let's just talk about Chelsea. This is great fun. Let's just talk about Chelsea. So, Tuchel during the week before the game, someone asked him, "Were you annoyed that Mikel Arteta got Premier League Manager of the Month because he lost a game, you won all your games, he got the award?" And Tuchel was like, let's keep it like this. We'll win all the games, he gets the reward. I don't mind."
Ooh.
And then they go at home and get slapped 4-1. Now, it's really interesting because what Chelsea did, they went from usually playing back 3, they played a back 4, and Brentford usually play a back 4, and they went back 3. And for one of these teams, the experiment really worked. And for the other one, it really didn't. Now, there was just a bit of a mad period for Chelsea. So after the Rudiger goal, which was an absolute banger, by the way, like an incredible goal. I think the celebration, not to be like the celebration police that I've called out quite a bit, it felt like he thought the game was won at that point. He was like, "Oh, there you go, game over. Yeah, here we go. The ball's about to roll." And then they conceded 3 goals in 10 minutes. Christian Eriksen getting no, it was Jan Elt, wasn't it? Jan Elt, then Eriksen, then Jan Elt, and then Wissa with the 4th at the end. Now, Jan Elt, they signed him for £500,000 from Bundesliga 2 Bochum in 2020. And it really shows Brentford are such a fascinating club. They do the Moneyball system, like from the film Moneyball, right?
Yeah.
So they only focus on data and they only focus on the XG and the analytics behind it. And the amount of players they discover and the value they get out of them is incredible. Jan Elt has been an amazing player for them this season. It's still something on Football Manager. I want to sit and do the Moneyball system. I want to figure out how to do it and be like, right, I'm going to do a save that way because I find it so fascinating. But Brentford, this is basically meant that they will be in the Premier League next season. They are now on 33 points. Watford in 18th are on 22, so they're 11 points ahead of the relegation zone. Despite the fact that Watford have only played 1 game less, I think this basically confirms their survival. It's the first time they've beaten Chelsea since 1938, I think, or 1936. This is a huge, huge win for Brentford. For Chelsea, it felt like they just kept getting caught out on the break. Like one of the goals they conceded from their own, like from their attacking corner, like it just There was no defenders back. The second goal in particular, I think there's a moment where number 22, so I think that is Ruben Loftus-Cheek or Ziyech, I can't remember. He literally, no one's picked up the runner, and you see him, he just puts his hands on his back of his head. He's like, oh crap, we're 2-1 down. It's like there was no one picking up runners at all. Absolute mayhem. Tuchel looked fuming after the game. And the thing is, their next game is Real Madrid. But would you be surprised if Chelsea turn up and batter Real Madrid now? I wouldn't at all. But I guarantee they're going to start.
Better is a big word, but I wouldn't be surprised if they won. If they battered Real Madrid, I would be surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. But one thing you can guarantee, they're probably going to start with a 3 at the back. I don't think he's going to go for the 4 at the back system again now. But the great thing about this as well, and have you been exposed to Thiago Silva's wife yet?
What do you mean?
So she is she's absolutely beautiful, right? Absolutely beautiful. But she is the definition of ride or die, right? Every time someone says anything negative about him in the media, she's just straight on Instagram Live. And she was making this video like to all the people who are calling out Thiago Silva and saying he doesn't defend properly. And she was just going off. And this is like the second or third time she's done it. I'm like, man, you need to find yourself a woman like Thiago Silva's wife, because she just...
Maybe a little too much. Maybe a little.
It is a little bit too much, but I think there's a part of me that's like, no, I like that. I like that. She's just calling everyone out. But I definitely got the image of him behind the camera, just like, oh, for God's sake.
She's doing it again.
Or just, I can't tell her again. I've just got to let her get on with it. Because if I say anything, she'll be giving it all this. I don't know. So yeah, she was going pretty hard afterwards. But for Chelsea, it's a genuinely terrible result. And allow me a bit of hubris. If the Arsenal result goes well tonight, we could be going for that third spot. We would only be 2 points behind Chelsea if we win tonight. Just let me get my maths right. Yeah, 2 points behind Chelsea with a game in hand if we do well tonight. So I think we could be coming for the third spot. Touch wood.
All right. By the time you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, you will know the final result of Arsenal Crystal Palace. So is Ruairi full of shit or not? You will find out.
I'm definitely full of shit. I just might not be wrong this time.
Should we go top of the table?
I was gonna actually give some props to a little bit down.
Just a little bit.
I was going to give some props to Tottenham. I think we need to talk about Tottenham.
This man is changing. This man has changed. He has gone ways from the beginning of this podcast. He can talk praise about Tottenham. Go for it, Rory. We also have a question from our listeners.
5 different goal scorers. Newcastle, I think, are leveling out, right? They've had that boost, like the new manager bounce and the players take it, like the new players taking effect and the new manager bounce, etc. But now they're definitely leveling out. They're finding their level, and their level was terrible yesterday. They were absolutely shocking against Spurs. Some of the defending was genuinely like comedic. But for Tottenham to be able, what is happening now, especially at their home stadium, they're not just winning. They are trying to get that goal difference up. Conte is saying to them, we know that this goal difference could be a key thing towards the end of the season. They are just smashing in goals. I think they genuinely look like a very good team. Kulusevski, great signing. 5 assists already, 2 goals, right? Even a player like Bentancur, who I genuinely thought was a panic buy, has been very, very good for them in midfield. He's a proper ratty player. I don't know if he was like this at Juve, but I find him very, very irritating. There was a great moment where Joe Linton absolutely sent him flying because he was trying to act Billy Big Bollocks, which was enjoyable. But for Tottenham, genuinely looking like a very, very good team. And like every club that Conte goes to, he gets like an average player and turns them into a world beater. And I think he might have done it with Doherty. He's now able to play left wing back and right wing back. He scored on both sides. He is genuinely like, and this is another player, kind of Lobotka style, where the Tottenham fans were like, you know what, this guy's done. Let's just get rid of him. It was a bad idea. And Conte's turned him into a genuinely great wing back for now, like in great form, right? Let's not like get too far ahead of ourselves. But I think, a great performance, Tottenham in great form. And I think, as we said in the last episode, this run of games, they could actually win like 4-5 in a row at this rate.
And Rory, the question comes from friend of the show, AFC Finners. Do you think Conte will stay at Tottenham next season? And if so, how will he do?
I think it's looking more and more likely like that he will. Things are definitely going better. It still kind of depends how the season ends, right? If they end up in 5th, 6th, I think maybe Conte takes a little bit more of a thought about it. If they get 4th spot, I think he definitely stays. But the key thing there is like, is Levy going to actually back him in the summer, or is he just going to bullshit him? And also, is Kane going to stay? Because now the rumors are coming around again that Kane wants to leave. Man United are after him, which I don't know if United need him really. Like that's not the first issue I would be addressing in the Man United team, not really. But there's rumors there after him. There's rumors he's still not happy. Like, so that's a big thing as well. It all depends on Levy, really. It really does depend on Levy. If he's going to back Conte, then the chances of him staying.
I have to say that you can kind of start seeing the Conte mechanisms in place at Tottenham. The wing backs scoring and assisting each other. That is a big sign that the 3-5-2 that Conte wants Tottenham to play is starting to work.
And he's got great players for it. Like I said, like adding Kulusevski to that Son Heung-min and Harry Kane partnership is genuinely like as a trio, they could destroy teams and are destroying teams at the moment. Chris Hamilton getting involved saying if Harry Kane stays, Conte stays, and if Conte stays, Harry Kane stays. I think exactly. They're going to be having lots of secret conversations, I imagine. Saying, right, do you rate this lot? How much? How likely are we to get a trophy? Really? So I think it'll be an interesting summer for Spurs. But hopefully none of this counts and they're just playing on Thursday nights.
Another team that doesn't seem interested to making the European football spots is Manchester United. 1-0 against Leicester City. And if it wasn't for a great save by De Gea, it could have been 2-1 and a loss.
If it wasn't for some very dodgy refereeing, this could have been a much worse result for United. Not only should McTominay have been sent off in the first half, like it was, again, you can get your bingo cards out, guys. If that was Granit Xhaka, he would have been sent off. It was an awful tackle. I can't believe he wasn't sent off. And then Leicester had a second goal, and I'm still not quite sure why it was disallowed.
No, I am sure why it was disallowed, because that was a foul on the build-up. Like the guy gets the leg entirely and kind of drags it back too. So I think that's
think that is ridiculously soft. I think it's honestly that's set a precedent for fouls. I'm like, that is a very
if you
soft
kick
one.
Somebody's leg, you're
he didn't even kick. It was like he was trying to get the ball and he happened to drag the leg. I honestly think it was. I think they've been so lucky to have that disallowed. Honestly, and that's not just. Well, I don't think it's just my bias, but at the time I was like, I can't believe that's been ruled out. So Leicester definitely should have won the game. They were the much better team. Maddison had a great game. Harvey Barnes, every time I watch him, I think this guy is such an exciting, such a good player. And then one player I wanted to give props to as well. Now, I think yesterday or the day before Ramadan started, right? So a lot of the Muslim players in the Premier League are now playing whilst fasting. And Fofana hadn't drank any water. He hadn't eaten anything. And he put in an unbelievable performance. And it was one of his, if not his first game back from injury. I think it's one of his first games back from a horrific injury. He put in a hell of a shift. Great defender. And for Leicester, they've like this season's been a disappointment, but they're definitely improving as the season's gone on. I think there's less pressure on them, but they're definitely putting in some performances. They should have won this game. For United, it was just really boring. It was just really unexciting. But we have to say, again, could Fred, okay, here's a hot take for you. Could Fred be United's player of the season?
Man, I was going to say that honestly. Fred, he's improved greatly. And some of his pieces of skill during the games are quite something. And he can bang in goals too. So I think that's a good shout. I agree with you on that one.
Ranić has realized that he's not a defensive midfielder. He was never a defensive midfielder. Don't give him defensive midfielder duties and he'll be fine. And he's honestly, since Ranić's come in, he's been incredible. And you're like, okay, there is a player there. There was a player there. They just, typical United, they bought him for loads of money and didn't think for a second about how they were going to play him. Right? So I think Fred I'm okay. Yeah, Chris has said De Gea by a million miles. I think I'm going to give Fred the silver medal then, right? I think let's say he's their second best player this season because
It's a hot
again, let's
take,
face it,
Chris.
there's
Come
not
on,
many
it's a
nominees
hot
there.
take. We did say it was a hot take, Chris.
Yeah,
Come on.
yeah.
Come on, we warned you. By the way, I was looking at United's result. They across their last 5 games in the Premier League, only 1 win.
And I have to say, just a quick.
2
I'm
wins.
going to have a
Actually,
little
2.
bit more hubris here because Gary Neville has been absolutely spouting some nonsense about Arsenal, saying that if Arteta gets us in top 4, then he should just leave Arsenal. That's the best thing he'll do with the club. His job's done. Last week it was what was it? I think United will beat Arsenal to top 4, and then literally the second after this game, he was like, "Yeah, United aren't getting top 4." Oh, life comes at you pretty quick.
What else have we got in the Premier League? Well, we've got something interesting happening at the top, as always, right?
We do. Liverpool with a, if you'll allow me, Chris, unconvincing 2-0 win. They definitely weren't at their best, but 2-0 win, job done.
I feel like they're flirting a little bit with their lead. Like, I don't know. They seem to be extremely in charge of what they're doing, but at the same time, it feels like it's very fragile. Like something could happen every game.
I take this in a completely different way. I think it's just like they are so set in that winning mode now that they're just going to win. Like, regardless what happens, they're going to win. No matter how they play, they'll win. They'll find a way to win. With City, they were just super clinical against Burnley. They scored within 5 minutes.
Can I say something? Yeah, that was the thing. Like, so Liverpool win, and I'm just like, all right, I'm going to sit and watch this game. Like, right now, Man City have got a little bit of pressure. Like, Burnley are not this incredible team, but still, away from home, pressure. Man, by the time I set up my computer and they sat down with a beer, it was 1-0. I was just like, what the fuck? And one other thing, De Bruyne cannot just touch the ball. He just has to hammer it in the net.
That goal, that finish is unbelievable.
Mate, there is a photographer, so a professional photographer sitting behind the net. This guy has done this job, I want to say, plenty of times before. So he knows that the ball automatically is not going to go through the net, right? But you see him with the camera, and when De Bruyne hits it, he just like dives. He's just like, oh shit, I don't want to get a hit. What a goal. What a goal, and very convincing football throughout the 90 minutes for Man City.
Yeah, well, exactly. And now their next games are against each other. It's the decider this weekend. So we're going to preview it, obviously, on Friday's episode. But that is their next game. So I think it was just key for both these teams to get a winning start after the return from the international break. So, yeah, fully professional from both teams. We need to go down to the bottom, I think.
Sorry, upcoming fixtures for Man City, Atletico Madrid and Liverpool at home, and then Atletico Madrid in Spain, and then Liverpool at home again for the FA Cup final. Semi-final.
It's definitely a harder run for City because Liverpool have got Benfica, and we're not going to disrespect Benfica, but Liverpool could arguably put out a slightly weaker side. I'm not sure if they will, but they could. Whereas City are going to have to go full 11 for all those 4 teams,
True.
Even though they've got 2 full 11s anyway, haven't they, really? Yeah. But I think it's definitely a harder run for City. But we need to go down to the bottom just because I want to laugh at Fat Frank a little bit more. Everton are pathetic. Like, they're so bad. They're so bad. And the Leeds got a draw. They're showing some fight. They're really, really putting the shifts in. Like Burnley, it was against City. So, I still think they've got something to say in this relegation battle. Watford were decent against Liverpool. Like, genuinely had a few chances. A chance in the first half, they really should have scored. Everton showed nothing. Like, nothing. Iwobi gave away the ball, and within seconds, it was in the back of the net. Michael Keane was sent off. It just looks so lifeless at Everton. And I think I tweeted it, but you can literally see on the Everton players' faces them realizing that they're not too good. They're not too good to go down. You can see them being like, "Oh wait, oh no wait,
it might happen.
This could actually happen." And like the confidence is just like a vacuum out of that place. Calvert-Lewin cannot do anything at the moment. He's getting dragged after 60, 70 minutes. No impact on games. The midfield's non-existent. The defense is even worse. Like, just absolutely hopeless. Honestly, I think I cannot see a world where they stay up, how they're playing at the moment. And it's mad because this is a team that have never been relegated from the Premier League. This is one of the biggest historical teams in the UK, in England. if Frank Lampard is the first man to take them down, oh my God, I might cry with happiness. It would be so funny. It would be so funny.
That would be
Sorry, Everton fans, but
Rory's wet dream. Lampard relegated as a manager.
Will people ever realize he's a shite manager? Anyway.
Also, Wolves win 2-1 against Villa. Leeds draw 1-0 against Southampton. And Brighton draw 1-0. 0-0 against North. How do you say 0?
0-0. And they missed a penalty. Neil Maupay missed a penalty. And Graham Potter has now come out and said to the Brighton fans, please stop shouting shoot when they've got the ball. You're making the players nervous. I think he's genuinely, they are struggling at the moment, Brighton. They have been awful since about Christmas. They have been absolutely terrible. It's a good job they had a good start to the season. Bloody hell.
And ladies and gentlemen, we've got to wrap this up quick because Crystal Palace Arsenal has just kicked off.
Just started, hasn't it?
It has just kicked off. Rory, I know that you wanted to say something about a certain team making it back to Serie B before we go.
Very, very quickly, we have, every so often I rep them, and I'm pretty excited because they're going to be playing in the north of Italy at some point next year. SSG Bari have finally got promoted from Serie C into Serie B. They are now, give it a couple of years, they'll be back in Serie A. You heard it here first. Give it 3-4 seasons, they'll be back in Serie A.
Great scenes. Go watch the videos of their supporters celebrating and dancing once they won the crucial game to clinch Serie B. Don't forget that tomorrow night, the Champions League kicks off again with Benfica Liverpool and Man City Atletico Madrid at 9 p.m. Rory, quick predictions. Benfica Liverpool, go.
Liverpool 2-0.
I say Liverpool 3-0. Man City, Atletico.
Hot take, 1-0 Atletico.
Man, I like it. I say the same thing. 1-0 Atletico. And on Wednesday, we've got Chelsea, Real Madrid. The quick prediction.
Chelsea 2-1.
Ooh, I say 1-0 Chelsea. And then a Villarreal, Bayern Munich. I don't want to predict this one.
Bayern Munich 4-0.
4-0 away from home. I don't know. We shall see. We shall see. Ladies and gentlemen, it's everything from the Anglo-Italian pod. This was episode 56. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Anglo-Italian pod, on Twitter at Italian Anglo Pod, and to give a cheeky little follow to our sponsor at Sports Club Maps. Forza Bologna, Forza Arsenal. Rory, anything else to say?
Come on, boys. We need this. We need this win. We need it.
Talk to you soon, guys. We're going to be with you again on Friday. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.